Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order and do the Pledge of Allegiance and have a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. James, do you want to do
Yes,
roll call?
please. Council President,
Here,
Councilmember Bailey,
he's absent.
Councilmember Dolan,
Present.
Councilmember Helmuth,
Here.
Councilmember Kennis.
He's excused.
Make a motion to excuse Councilmember Kennis.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Helmut, supported by Dolan. All in favor?
Aye.
Post same sign. Approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Dolan, supported by Helmut. All in favor?
Aye.
Post same sign. Call the public on non-agenda items. Okay. I've read in the new business manager position interview. Tim, you want to
So we're in this.
go to the podium?
Okay, sure.
Yep.
Council President, if you'd like me to introduce?
Yes,
and
please.
Proceed. Please, I'm happy to introduce Tim McLean. He is our candidate this evening for interview. I've provided members of council with a memorandum of recommendation for interview from the subcommittee. I've also provided some questions if the council chooses to use them. Certainly this should be a free flow and a conversation with the candidate. There's probably 2 questions towards the end that I would recommend that we ask, but beyond those, however the council president may wish to select folks to ask either the prepared questions or a question of interest to them. It will be, I hope, a conversation that the council president will lead. So with that, I turn it over.
Okay. Well, I think we'll start with what Eric had asked you earlier. Why are you interested in this position at this point in your career?
Well, I've got some very exciting things going on in my life. First is I'm getting married in a few months.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much. My fiancée and I, we discussed our long-term future, and we both agree that the east side of the state is where we're looking to be long-term. She has a standing offer to join a company, in her profession, and she keeps telling me, she says, hurry up and get a job, will ya? And this opportunity came up, and some months ago when the Lake Orion position was open, I had some interest in that, so I came out for a visit, and I said, Oxford's just 5 minutes away, why don't I check this out? I always wanted to see the city. Checked it out, a fantastic downtown. I saw some very exciting amenities, some exciting opportunities, and I think this is the place where you can come and stay in a long time. Very much to my pleasant surprise, the village manager position became open, and I said, this is an opportunity that's too good to pass up.
Okay. Do you want me to ask them all, or I was thinking you guys could
Is
each
it
ask
pronounced
one?
McLean or McLean?
McLean.
McLean. Mr. McLean, could you tell me about your current responsibilities in the position that you're in right now and what brought you to that opportunity?
Sure. Currently, I serve as the city manager for the city of Wayland, which is a community in northern Allegheny County, about halfway between Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo. In my role there, I'm the chief administrative officer for the city. I manage all of the day-to-day operations, supervise 20 full-time employees, tasked with negotiating all collective bargaining agreements. Currently serve a 7-member city council. We're a full-service community. We've got police, fire, active downtown development authority, public works, water, and wastewater. Currently, we oversee a budget of just over $4 million. What brought me to my position in Wayland, prior of that, I served as the assistant to the city manager in the city of Jonesville down in Hillsdale County. And Jonesville started off as a general law village, and one of the projects we were tasked with during my tenure there was to incorporate the village as a home rule city. So that was a pretty major undertaking that we did in Jonesville. Public service is all that I've ever wanted to do professionally. Second generation public servant. My father, who's passed away, he was a city manager professionally, and as a child I spent a lot of time in his office. And it's amazing that when I was in grad school studying public administration, a lot of the things that got talked about in his office, things you don't really think about when you're 5 or 6 years old, it came back. And it got me thinking, local government is where I want to be. It's, not to sound cliche, but to me it's a calling. Once I got a taste of public service, I said, this is all I want to do. I can't see myself doing anything else.
Thank you.
I was just looking through some of the projects that you've done. The construction projects that you worked on, the street project, that include water and sewer?
Some water and sewer, yes. We're actually starting a street project on Monday that's going to feature some water main replacements. We're starting Monday and it should be wrapped up just prior to Labor Day. And it's a project that's over near the school, so we didn't want to do anything to disrupt school operations, school traffic, so we were able to time the project to run, school ends for Williams Schools tomorrow. So we're going to start the project, have it done so that there's going to be no disruption. Starts up in the fall.
Do you have your own water plant?
We do, yes. Lagoons.
Water treatment.
Lagoons.
Well, you have your own well? Or?
Yeah.
It looks like you're very into long-term planning,
Yes.
and you're good at it.
I'm getting better at it. We have, currently with our current workforce, we have a lot of employees that have served a long time that are at or near retirement age. And the trouble is that's a lot of institutional knowledge that would be walking out the door. And that type of knowledge you cannot replace. And so what's very much on my mind is to get our next generation of department heads, let's start training them early so that we can have a seamless transition. This was something that started with my predecessor in the Public Works Department. It's been a pretty seamless transition. We've had a long-term assessor who's going to be stepping down. A year ago, I allowed him to hire an intern/assistant, and due to some health reasons, the assessor had to step down, so we were able to appoint the assistant. Be able to get the ball run with it and have a seamless transition.
You have a lot of employees close to retiring. What's your retirement fund look like? What kind of retirement system do you have?
Right now, we have a MERS defined benefit pension. It's not fully funded. We're not sounding alarm bells. I know getting our pensions fully funded in Michigan is an ongoing issue.
Do you know what percentage you're at about?
I want to say we're about 90%.
How much?
That's a pretty good number.
I'll have to double check my numbers, but we're about 90%.
That's almost unheard of.
I'd say that's safe. That's
I
pretty
could be
close to
wrong,
fully
but
funded.
Yeah, don't quote me on that one.
You're probably leading the state then.
Yeah.
Like I said, don't quote me. I know we're in good shape. We don't have a lot of employees, so a lot of the issues with legacy costs, those have been manageable. And we feel like it's going to be a process to get fully funded, but we're confident that we're going to get there. Never as soon as I would like, but
Are you part of that MERS program?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, we have I believe it's a 6-year vesting period for the MERS defined benefit. We also offer a 457 plan, which is voluntary.
Independently managed though, correct?
I believe that's also MERS.
Wow, I'm stunned at 90%.
You know, like I said, I could be off
Likewise, I'm
on my
gonna
number.
have to research
don't-
that.
don't-
You'd have a real challenge here.
Yeah, you know what, first thing I'm gonna do tomorrow is I'm gonna find out exactly so I can make sure I have the right number for you, but we're in pretty good shape.
Okay. Can you tell me something about your supervisory and human resource experience and how you manage
Sure.
to ensure good public service to the customers that come in?
Absolutely. Currently, we don't, we're a small staff, we don't have a full or even a part-time person dedicated solely to HR, so it's, in my present role, it's done by committee between myself, the finance director, and the clerk. And it's an arrangement that's worked pretty well. When it comes to all the hiring, I participate in all of the interviews, and part of my role as a manager is to all the hiring and firing is done through me, with the exception of the city attorney. Only the city council has the authority to meet the city attorney. But during my time in Jonesville, I was tasked with overseeing all of the HR functions, which included the health insurance plans, dental, vision, all the employee paperwork, if there were any injuries, and basically all the benefits. I was tasked with that. One of the interesting tasks we had was to comply with the Affordable Care Act a few years ago, and as you're all aware, it's a double-edged sword in Michigan in that we had to comply with affordable care. We still have to meet the hard caps set by the state. And by committee, we were able to find a plan that was going to work well for the employees, come in under the hard cap, and satisfy the requirements of affordable care. It was not an easy task. It was a labor of love, but when we got there. And I think in a smaller committee, I think you have to have kind of an HR by committee approach.
Just out of curiosity, you said you sit on a committee with your finance director, your clerk, and yourself. What's your working relationship with your clerk?
Oh, it's good. It's been my experience in municipal government, and that your clerk tends to be your go-to person, kind of your right hand person. I mean, a lot of your clerks have been in the profession a long time, and they know a lot. And yeah, there tends to be a very good working relationship between clerks and managers, in my experience anyway.
Mr. McLean, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, how would you evaluate your leadership ability and what number would you assign to that? If you could also then articulate how you come to that rating for me, please.
Well, if I had to assign a number realistically, and that I've been a city manager for approximately a year and a half, so I'm still kind of learning as I go. So if I had to assign my leadership number as of this second, I would give myself about a 6.5. One of the things I've learned is that there's a vast difference between management and leadership.
Absolutely.
And I find that it's easier to manage than it is to lead. And so I feel like I'm still striking a balance between the two. As I'm new, I'm still learning. I can only see that score getting higher. And 6.5 is a number that I don't find acceptable in myself.
You yourself don't find that acceptable? In the chief leadership position?
I think 6.5 to me is, there's room for improvement. And as a first-time manager, I made, my lion's share of mistakes, and I like to think that I learned from each one. And I don't see that 6.5 as being something that's going to be there for much longer.
Okay. To piggyback onto that, I consider personally the Village of Oxford to be what I call established, and in my opinion, somewhat resistant to change. Knowing this, do you foresee any complexities with implementing a system that you consider to be your own?
Well, I think to find a system that works, I don't see myself as a guy that comes in and says, I know it all, you're doing it wrong, you have to do it, this and this. I think I need to take the time to work with everybody to find out what are the things that we're doing well. Continue to build on on things that we've already been doing that are successful. Find out what are we doing that's not working so well. What can we do to make it better? I'm the kind of guy that I feel like if we're not learning something, improving, and getting better every day, then we're in the wrong profession. The day I have nothing new to learn is the day that I need to hang up my public service hat altogether.
With that said, you recognize that the clerk has departed. We have an acting police chief, and really the only established leader right now is the Department of Public Works. Everyone's going to turn to you.
I say let's work together. Let's find a system that's going to provide the best possible services, to our residents in a way that's cost efficient.
Thank you, sir.
Can we talk about some grants? I love that you've got grant history. Can you tell us about it?
Absolutely. During my time in Jonesville, one of the projects we wanted to do was have a non-motorized trail. And one of the projects I'd started working on was there's an abandoned rail corridor that ran through, almost directly through downtown Jonesville. It was owned by the real estate division of MDOT. We were able to acquire a grant to acquire that property. We use MDOT's, it's now the Transportation Alternative Program, the TAP grant. So we were able to acquire the TAP grant, and I believe it's about $55,000. I've got, I don't know, my resume has that number on there. We were able to use that to acquire the property, which you would think working with different divisions of MDOT would be easy. I found that to be a bit of a challenge. But it was good too. I learned a lot, and we got there. We got the property acquired. We then sought grant funds through the Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund Program for development.
So they were two separate grants?
Yes. And we did work with a consulting firm out of the Saginaw area, Spicer Group, on that grant. So I worked side by side with the coordinator in writing a successful grant. The DNR Trust Fund Program is highly competitive. You get a lot of applicants every year, and there's never enough funds to do the number of projects out there that are reported. So we got the grant on our first try, and we were just happy as can be. Construction was getting set to start right around the time that I was leaving Jonesville to go to Wayland. They completed the project last October, and I still have a very good rapport with the manager there, and he invited me back for the ribbon cutting. To see the end result of that was fantastic. And we have to be inventive in finding new streams of revenue. We have to seek out grants whenever possible. As you know, with revenue sharing, there's a lot of dollars out there that aren't going the way of municipalities, so we have to continue to be as diligent as possible in seeking out alternative sources of revenue.
Thank you.
Can you tell me a little bit about your experience in budget development?
Yes.
How you do it?
How we've been doing it in Wayland, we do have a full-time finance director. And the finance director and I, we work with, there's a committee of 3 council members, that's the budget committee. We hold a series of meetings to go over budget requests. We look at kind of a 5-year history of certain line items. And we streamlined the process a little bit this year. We asked the department heads to come in to meet with us, and we would go over their requested budgets, line by line. And one of our goals this year was to present a balanced budget without drawing anything from fund balance. And so we had a lot of meetings. We looked at particular areas. We said, can we cut here? And then they gave the department heads a chance to defend their budgets, and then they'd say, well, we really need this, but we can probably cut here. The end result was probably the most streamlined budget preparation process that I've been a part of. We put together a balanced budget without drawing from fund balance, and Monday the 19th we will be asking City Council to approve that budget.
What's your fiscal year, if you don't mind?
July 1.
And did you say you have a 7-member board, council?
Yes.
Okay. And so the department heads don't have that much input into the budget?
They
Is
do,
it-
they submit their requests, we usually get those around, March and April, we start holding our meetings, and we were determined this year that we want to use fund balance this year. What can we do to cut in certain areas? And I recognize that we can't cut our way to prosperity, but we also have to be sustainable as an organization, so we have to put together a budget that is balanced, doesn't compromise service levels, but is also fiscally responsible.
I have a great respect for that.
You go line by line?
We do. Sometimes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes line by line. Yeah, we were able to cut. In some areas, we were able to kind of combine some line items. And one of the interesting things we've been working through is we did get a SAW grant for the stormwater asset management. So there's a lot of expenses that go with that. And one of the good things about SAW program is that the grant covers 90% of certain expenses. So we had to be careful with things on the sewer side of things. I view public service and infrastructure maintenance as the most essential functions that local government provides. And it's a balancing act to maintain our infrastructure, be fiscally responsible, and be sustainable.
How old is the city of Wayland?
We've been around, I want to say, since 1848.
Okay.
You guys use BSNA?
Yes, oh yes.
Thank you.
Yes, yeah, during my time in Jonesville, accounts payable was one of the functions I did. And I love BSNA. It's very easy to use, and I think anybody can be trained on it in a month. If I can, then anybody can.
Mr. McLean, going back to grant writing, do you have any grant writing education, or has it been through trial and error and experience?
Mostly through trial and error. My grad program at Bowling Green, they started offering some grant writing courses after I graduated. So you attend, and I try to attend seminars through MML, through the Michigan Municipal Executives. I figure you can never get enough education and training on grant writing, especially as competitive as it is today. So I take advantage of that whenever it's available.
We're kind of late at this point, but this segues into another topic where it would have been beneficial had we had that experience. Could you please discuss with the council your understanding of the M24 rehabilitation project and your comfort level of partially directing and overseeing that project?
Sure, that's something.
It's pretty substantial.
Mr. Petrino and I have talked a little bit about that, and I know that's going to be a pretty major project, and it's going to require a lot of working together with MDOT. And I do know that there are kind of some different, MDOT has some different expectations, and the village has some expectations, so I think you have to keep those lines of communication open and fluid. You have to find situations that are acceptable, to both. I do know that when Mr. Petrino was in Rochester, they undertook a pretty major streetscape project, and I do recall a presentation. I think I still have my notes from that, and I did learn a lot from some of the things they went through. And one of the great things about this profession is that as municipal managers, we all help each other out. If you get stumped on an issue, chances are there's other people that have done this, several times, and definitely not afraid to ask for help, advice, when needed. I see it as a very major, very exciting project. I think if you chose me as your village manager, my goal was to come out of this thing with roads that are in great shape, do whatever we can to continue to improve downtown. I mean, that's your lifeblood right there, your downtown. That's the first impression I had of Oxford was entering the downtown, and I was impressed.
Can Can you give us, or what is your experience in managing building departments and code enforcement?
Sure. Currently, we contract out for our building permits and inspections. We use a firm out of Door, which is a community just directly to the north of Wayland, professional code inspectors. We also, last year, we changed planning consultants, and we were able to take on the same firm to do both our building inspections permits and our planning consulting, which to me is fantastic because you have those two sides that, you know, the left side knows what the right side is doing, so it's pretty seamless. Planning consultant is fantastic. We work very well together. And I always enjoy the planning side of things. I love working with the planning commission. I worked, hand in hand with the planning commission in Jonesville for almost 5 years, and I've continued to do so in Wayland. And with our new planning consultant, I think our meetings are more streamlined. I think our efforts are more efficient, and I think we're heading in a much better direction, regarding our planning.
Do you have, do they have office hours in your,
Not in our
Community?
building, they're just a couple of miles away, so if I ever need anything, 5 minutes, and, they're great in that they always make time. They even, our planning consultant, he and I talk after hours, a lot, they're always accessible.
okay. Do they meet with developers, builders,
We
that type
do,
of stuff? Okay.
And our permitting process has been pretty smooth, we don't have a lot of issues with that. Code enforcement's been a little bit tricky in that a lot of those functions have been managed by our police department. We had an officer that was kind of tasked with doing a lot of the code enforcement, and that officer is no longer with the city. So it's been a challenge to keep up on our code enforcement, and I've been kicking around the idea of, maybe we need to bring in somebody part-time to strictly handle the code enforcement.
So who's doing it now?
It's kind of a collaboration between planning consultant and police department and myself.
Okay.
It's not an ideal relationship at present.
We currently have that same situation.
I would love to have I don't think I could justify having a full-time code enforcement person. If I had somebody in 20 hours a week, I think that would free up the consultant and the police department to focus on other areas.
Did your police officer have training in code enforcement?
He did have some education in it, and a lot of it was, the majority of the code violations that we dealt with are, in the summertime you get, grass and weeds. One of the big things that kind of comes and goes, in the summer is chickens. People have chickens. And those are only permitted in the city in certain areas, and it's by special land use permit only. And that's been an interesting topic to navigate. And I'm told we have people that are going to be coming to our next council meeting to advocate to be allowed for chickens, which should be an interesting and spirited discussion.
What's your population in Wayland?
4,079 residents.
Oh. Mr. McLean, what methodology and strategies would you employ to advance economic development in the village? We currently, as you probably have noticed, have vacancies within the community, and there are presently numerous opportunities for the community to grow and for opportunity likewise for business owners. How would you tackle that topic?
One of the programs that we're just starting to get into in Wayland is that we have a full-time DDA Main Street manager. They participate in the Main Street program. We're starting to become involved in the Michigan Economic Development Corporation's Redevelopment Ready Communities program, which it's a pretty intensive program, but it's also very valuable in that once you get the certification through RRC, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation will actively market your properties, and it's intended to give both identity and identity to your downtown, and to help eliminate those vacancies. I know one of the issues that's come up a lot in my research is that you've got a pretty wide mixture of uses in downtown, and I've heard that parking is getting to be an issue. So I think finding a balanced solution to parking is going to be tied directly to any of your economic development endeavors, moving forward.
I'm a strong believer that parking is the result of a thriving downtown. If you take a look at your Rochesters, your Birmingham, your Troy, they all have the same quandaries. So I would wonder, do you have any proactive methodology to bring business to the community that you'd like to look into or have employed in the past?
Well, and I think there's a lot of room to collaborate with our DDA on, a lot of economic development is kind of done, it's an 80-20 in that we spend 80% on business retention, 20% on attraction. And I think you have to be careful in incentives. What's the word I'm looking for? We had a developer, we're selling some city property now, they inquired about tax abatements. And that's something our current council that's a road they're not wanting to go down. And I think you have to find unique solutions to attract businesses, without, giving away, the farm.
Sure.
I think in some cases, tax abatements can be ideal. I think you have to be very mindful and cautious of going down there. And, I think you have to consider, kind of a regional approach to economic development. You need to work with folks at the county, you need to work with your DDAs, you need to work with your chambers of commerce. So, I see it as a collaborative and collaborative effort.
Do they have anything on that side of the state that equates with what we call One Stop Ready here in Oakland County?
I think probably your redevelopment ready community program might be similar
Okay.
to that. And I think a lot of it too is the things that your community does really well. You have to highlight those. One of the first things that I learned about Oxford is it's home of the Lone Ranger, and I know that there's a lot of pride and a lot of community identity that's derived from Oxford, being the Lone Ranger. And so I think you have to take the things that are working well, take the things that your community is great at, and you have to just market those.
I've still got more. What area of municipal management, not leadership, but management, would you consider to be your weakest? And conversely, what would you consider to be your strength in terms of when you shut the door? Excuse me?
That was my question.
When you shut the door and you're going to handle your village manager responsibilities, what are you strong at and weak at?
Well, I think one of the areas that I'm still improving at, I wouldn't necessarily call it a weakness, is on the finance side of things. I've gotten more comfortable with looking at items in the budget. And it's easy to look at a particular department, but tying it all together in the bigger picture has been a challenge, but it's something, I think this budget process, things were really clicking, that hadn't clicked a year ago, and we're going through this line by line. I'm saying, I get this. So I think you have to take the thing that you maybe are a little weak at, or that you don't necessarily like doing, and you have to do it. You have to, repetition is key. I think that's the only way you get better at something that is not one of your strong suits.
Where you currently are, do you have a financial manager? Do you have a treasurer?
Full-time finance director.
Okay. And would you be comfortable jumping into a position which did not have that support?
I think so, yes. I like the idea of, I believe the idea has been discussed of a clerk treasurer type position. And I think it helps to have some staff that's got some skill and some background experience in that area. And I think working together helps you overcome areas that are not necessarily a strength.
And what would those strengths be?
Strength would be definitely passion for the profession. Law enforcement has always been, near and dear to my heart. Prior to getting into a grad program for public admin, I had a great deal of interest in joining the law enforcement community. So I've always had a lot of love for our police departments, our fire departments, because I believe that public safety is the most important service that the municipality provides. I try to be, very hands-on with the police department without, micromanaging. I want to make sure that the needs of public safety are being met. I think, the passion there is definitely a strength. I love doing, the planning work. I love site plan review. A lot of people don't like doing site plan review. They don't like, reviewing ordinances. I love doing all that stuff. We had a development project that we approved a month ago. The Regional Council of Carpenters wanted to construct a 67,000 square foot training facility in Wayland, right next to 131. And they first reached out about a year ago, and this is great. This would be a fantastic investment in the community. It'd be a fantastic project. I worked with the guy every step of the way. I said, anything you need, let's work together. Let's get there. So I think that the passion for planning, the passion for law enforcement. I joined public service because I wanted to leave a community better than I found it. I don't want a regular 9-to-5 job. I want a job that, to me, has purpose. And I don't see anything that gives me more purpose than doing what I do every day at City Hall. So yeah, the energy, the enthusiasm. There's days where I get to the office at 7 in the morning and I'm there till 10 o'clock at night. And yeah, it tires you out, but it's what I live to do. I don't view it as a 40-hour week job. At the end of the day, I don't stop being the city manager of Wayland. I figure, once you step into that role, you are that role. You eat, sleep, breathe that role. I don't view myself as ever being off the clock, and I view that as a strength. I think in municipal management, you have to have that approach or last in the profession.
Going back to your strengths and weaknesses, by chance in your research, did you come across anything that suggested we have virtually no crime, but many financial problems?
I did read that Oxford is considered a safer community. Obviously, public safety is something I always take a close look at. I think with some of the revenue sharing issues, statewide, I think all of our municipalities in Michigan have a money problem. We have to get them to find those things in revenue. Revenue sharing is a joke right now. The state needs to consider long-term sustainable solutions in both Hadley and Proposal A. And so yeah, I think money problems are going to be a problem for municipalities, statewide. I've looked closely at the budget, and I didn't see anything, that I considered to be, red flag. I think, can we do better with our budgets? Yeah, I think always. I think there's always things we can do. And Mr. Petrino and I have talked about long-term models, for budgeting, 5-year model or possibly a rolling 3-year budget. And I think those are all solutions that, the municipalities we have to start considering and implementing.
Thank you, sir.
What's your experience with accounts payable, receivable, general ledger, that type of thing?
During my role as assistant to manager in Yountville, accounts payable was a function that the finance director outsourced to me. So I was tasked with learning the accounts payable. Did it every day of the week. You have your folder with your invoices. You get out your chart of accounts. You look things over. You make sure it's coded properly. It's going to the right line item. General ledger. I don't currently work with general ledger a lot. The finance director handles more of that side of things. But at the end of every month, I'll have her print out kind of the year to date, where we are with the budget. What percentage of the budget is being used. And one of the things that I feel we had to do better in Wayland is not going over budget on certain items. If it's an emergency item, great, but we're being more mindful of not going over budget. we have to continue to provide balanced budgets. We have to continue to have we have to have a sustainable fund balance.
In what threshold do you consider sustainable?
Being able to meet the needs of today while being very mindful of things in the not too distant future. We have to weather the storm. And I think another recession would be crippling to municipalities statewide. So that's what I think we have to be diligent, and mindful. We have to manage our finances. We have to be fiscally accountable. I think the need for fiscal accountability has never been greater in the state of Michigan than it is today.
When you did the park renovation project, how was that funded?
There was a grant through the Michigan's, the DNR's Recreation Passport Program. And a lot of that was, a lot of the project was funded. There was a semi-wealthy benefactor that when she passed away, she left a good chunk of money to the city with the caveat that we used towards a park improvement project. So it was funded partially between that fund and the Recreation Passport.
What did it include, the improvements?
With the park improvements, we were able to add all new playground equipment. We put in new surfacing, which it's kind of like the rubberized cement, the poured in place surface. It's a lot more forgiving on somebody if they were to fall on it. The council, they joked and they said, well, you're going to fall down on it and test it out, right? And I said, sure, I'll be right on that. But the highlight of the project was a splash pad. And from the minute we cut the ribbon and got the splash pad running until the minute the season was over, that park was always occupied corner to corner, and that was something that was just fantastic. I would drive by every day at my lunch hour. All the equipment's getting used. Unprecedented numbers of people. People coming from all over. We restriped our basketball courts. We've got striping for tennis. We also included pickleball, which is a very fast-growing sport, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback. And that people said, we're so happy that you did pickleball. We have to drive 30, 40 miles to find pickleball prior to doing this. So it was a great project, and I'd love to tell you that it was all my idea. It started before I joined the City of Wayland, but I was there to oversee all of the construction.
Mr. McLean, is there anything in your background that would be problematic for the village if reported upon?
Absolutely not. The City of Wayland vetted me quite thoroughly. They used a company called Pfeiffer Investigations. It was a former state police detective, and he dove pretty deep into my background. I told him, I said, you can't take my word for it, but you're going to be bored by what you find, which is good.
Boredom is nice.
No skeletons in my closet. No, honesty and integrity are two things that I place a very high value on. When you work with the public, give your word, you have to keep it. I think if you don't have honesty and integrity, then you have no place in public service.
Absolutely. Do you have any questions for us?
I do. I have 4 or 5 questions, if that's all right. On this council, I see diverse experience and backgrounds. One common theme that I've observed is a great deal of passion and love for this community. So I guess I would ask, what do you like best about Oxford? And if you could tell me one thing about this community, what would it be?
I like the people. I've lived here since 1975. I think the people are great. And they're helping each other. Somebody's out of town, somebody's mowing, it's just, the people are really good. And I think you'll like the people.
I think the people do. I've lived here all my life, born and raised here. this town has been very good to my family, and my family has been very good to the town too. So I think that it's a tight-knit community. I think that people support the kids, the schools. That we've got some areas that we need to improve on, just like any other town does. I love our historic downtown. I'd like to have a better retail mix than what we have, but the DDA is working on that. I like the idea that you can walk around the entire community pretty much. Love the trail.
Community, from the population to the stability. The recreation opportunities are, in my opinion, unmatchable in Oakland County. While there are certainly more affluent communities in Oakland County, I don't think you'll find one that has a better mix of all of the components a community should. I like that it's stable, safe, excellent schools. I like to use the expression, you don't always want to see how the sausage is made, but at the end of the day, it tastes good. And until becoming involved, I had no idea what making the sausage looked like. So I think once you have taken a step into that realm, you see an aspect that the community does not. And behind doors, I think ultimately everything gets ironed out. And I think our branding is excellent. Even the aspects that people on council or in the local community who do know a little bit more don't happen to see. Our branding is great. It's a community people know. It's a community people like, even if they've just passed through.
I had a chance to stop into the museum earlier. We're getting married in a few months, and they had the wedding gown exhibit. And she said, we have to go in here. And I spoke with the two gentlemen there, and we got a little bit of a history lesson. And I said, I'm gonna have to come back here and hear more. So hopefully I get an opportunity to do that.
It's a very exciting place.
Yeah.
Aside from learning the organization and the residents as quickly as possible, what do you view as being the highest priority for the next village manager?
Finances, building department, code enforcement. To step out of that, our roads are in deplorable condition, which goes along with the financial part of it. So somehow we have to be creative, think outside the box on a lot of things. Look for grants, look for money. Those are mine.
I just think someone needs to get a handle on organizing the office, getting the staff comfortable with what their jobs are, what their expectations are, what someone's expectations of them are, getting a clerk in, filling our staffing.
I don't think there's just one. I think whoever steps into this position is going to have their hands full. I think it's going to be an exciting time for somebody who wants to cut their teeth. And to be quite honest, I can't think of a community that I would rather have that opportunity to do it in than this, where this one is right now. I literally think every aspect of this community, while sustaining itself, has room to make someone look very good in its opportunity. I would agree, however, personnel and management.
I agree. I see a lot of exciting opportunities, and I see a community that doesn't accept the status quo, and that's, I want to go to a community where they want to do things, they want to be progressive. I see that. I see those opportunities here, and it's very, very exciting. What do you view as Oxford's greatest challenge and greatest asset?
Man, just one?
Yeah.
I believe Oxford's greatest challenge is that it's stuck in the past. I believe Oxford has its feet stuck in the cement and it's not willing to recognize that change is happening all around it, and change eventually is going to come to it. I think someone in a delicate manner needs to have the ability to impress upon the community that change is possible, needed, and good.
Everybody likes change until it happens, right?
Well, nobody likes change, but
Right?
but it's needed.
I think bringing it all together, that's going to be a real challenge. And when I say bringing it all together, it's not only the staffing and all the departments, it is what Eric says about we need change. But it's very hard for some people in town, and I admit it's hard for me. But at my age, I'm shocked that I'm so willing to, let's change, let's do something, we have to.
I just think it's getting everybody on the same page.
Yeah.
Getting everybody focused on the same thing, getting things in order, we're gonna do this, this, and this, and getting everybody on the same page.
Yeah, kind of bringing together the goals of everybody. I think everybody out there has the same end goal, but we're all going at it in so many different directions, and it needs to be, we need to come up with some goals that we all are going to work towards. And right now, that's not the way it is.
As far as positive, I don't think anyone answered that, so I will throw in my 2 bits.
I forgot about that.
I think Oxford very easily could take the Lake Orion's theme of where living is a vacation. That is truly how I look at this community. I look at this as living up north in the Tri-County area. From, I'm sure you just read about the Tough Mudder that happened a few weeks ago. That's new to the area, but I see that as an opportunity that is going to take place for years to come if it's so chosen to be. From the trails to the lakes to the dog parks to the probably a dozen parks in the North Oakland County area, if you are looking for a recreational community, you cannot find better in Oakland County.
I would agree. I've always viewed Oakland County as, the jewel of southeast Michigan.
And I view Oxford as the jewel of Oakland County.
Yeah. We're very proud of the fact that we've got some great restaurants in town. So it's another positive, I think. The fact that we have kept our historic buildings, I think it's a positive for us. I think our neighborhoods, I think that's a positive, the people.
Very good. If there was one skill set that you're seeking, in your ideal candidate, if there's a particular area, whether it be finance, planning, what would that, what do you think would be the most important skill set that your next manager would bring?
I'm looking for a leader.
I hate to agree with Eric, but that's, I was gonna say leadership. I think we really just need somebody to come in and let us step away.
Absolutely.
And we have a bit of a micromanaging problem. Some of us really like to micromanage. I'm not going to point fingers. Just kidding. And we need somebody that we can feel comfortable stepping away, saying, do it.
And with that said, leadership, I think, is so important because there's a huge void of it here. There is no current strong leadership. Let me retract that. I believe there's probably one solid leader currently. Now, others are potentially in various stages of development, but right now, we're coming into an organization that needs strong leadership. There needs to be no mistake in who's in charge, because to be quite honest, I think almost every full-time employee thinks to some extent they have some bearing in that, and they don't.
And one of the things too is I see a lot of ideas, a lot of love, and I see an opportunity to let's focus that energy. Let's channel it together. That's kind of what I see. That's one of the things that I find exciting about this council is you're all very involved. You're very passionate. And council manager, relations, statewide, it's a mixed bag, but I see a very, very passionate group here. That's great. That's a group that I can work with any day of the week, and hopefully I'll get the opportunity to do so. Just one very brief question. What sort of time frame are you looking at for next step in the process?
As far as hiring somebody, or?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'd like somebody tomorrow.
Sue wants
That's
everything
Friday,
tomorrow. I think the subcommittee probably needs to meet and then meet with all of council.
Yeah.
That was all I had for questions. I guess, is there any additional questions I can answer for?
Yeah, what's your relationship like with your council currently?
That's very good. Our mayor is semi-retired. He's in the office, not quite every day, but we work very well together.
Oh, really?
It's not a perfect relationship.
I would assume that.
I bet they love it.
There's always, there's very strong opinions, and you try to listen to everybody while being able to carry out the collective wishes of the council. And the mayor I served in Jonesville is very similar to yourself in that he served often on the council for many years. One of the best people I ever had to work with. He lived in the community for decades. He wasn't from there, but he was a transplant. He loved it. He took things personally in a good way. He wanted badly to see the community succeed. And that was, I think if I had to make a short list of people that have had a positive effect on my career, that was definitely Bob Snowden in Arizona. At times he would step away from the council and always drew him back. Love the community and wanted to serve and drew him back. And I think that's something I see in yourself. I do that as a very positive thing.
Are you comfortable with the salary range that was advertised?
Absolutely, yeah, definitely would be comfortable negotiating within those parameters.
Okay. And what is your time frame?
My current contract requires 60-day notice of resignation if I was offered a position. I have enough vacation time accumulated that I would probably be able to whittle that down some to, if offered this position, I would be able to get over here at least a little bit, here and there. Mostly finding a place to live. My current situation is I'm month to month in my apartment, and my fiance is on the verge of renting out her home, so I'll be able to find a place quickly. And if I know her, she's been out looking at houses while I've been in here, so I think we would be able to make the transition pretty quickly if offered the position.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have one other question. Well, there's an understanding that we would have liked somebody yesterday. Are you a patient individual? Because to me personally, there's nothing more important than finding the correct person, regardless of whether that would be you or someone else.
Sure, and patience is a skill I was not born with, and it's like a lot of people, I want something, I want it yesterday, but I'm realistic, and you have to be patient in this profession.
We are not necessarily known for making really quick decisions either.
Well, and I think a person has to do due diligence and make a decision for next factor. It's never an easy decision on deciding what you want as your manager.
Okay. James, did you have anything to?
Nope, no further questions. We'll work with the council itself and the subcommittee that was appointed, and I really appreciate your time, Tim. I appreciate the conversations we were able to have. I appreciate the responses you were able to provide the village council members and your pre-prepared questions. We'll be in touch. I'll be in touch with you very shortly to communicate the wishes of the council at this point.
I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm honored and grateful to have had the opportunity to be here today and answer questions and meet with all of you and get to know some more things about your fine community. I hope to be able to join this community and let's work together. Let's do great things.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Please drive safe tonight. Way back north.
Thank you very much.
pleasure to have met you.
Meet you, sir.
Tim, good to meet you.
Very good to meet you.
Tim?
Thank
Good
you
to
very
see you.
much.
Sure.
Okay, any public comment? Council comments? No?
I'm gonna go with no.
Eric?
No.
Me either.
Make a motion to adjourn at
Support.
6:33.
Okay, we have a motion by Helmut, supported by Dolan. All in favor?
Aye.
Post same sign. Thank you, guys.